And then flying along, there's this house on the dike and a barn. And in between the house and the barn is a farmer, waving like all get out to us as we're coming right straight at him at 150 miles an hour. We got closer, closer, and all of a sudden, he just dove for the ground. I and my crew had quite a laugh all the way back to England. How about that Dutch farmer?
This is Grandpa take one. Did you ever think you'd make it to 100 years old?
Not at all. You didn't think of that far ahead.
Didn't you? And where were you born, Raymond?
Ogden, Utah, in my grandmother's home.
Tell me about the size of the house you grew up in.
Well, I wish I had the picture. I've got a picture downstairs of it, and it will blow your mind because this looks like a mansion right today to what it was then. The screened porch was on the west. There was a bed on this side of the porch, the bed on this side of the porch. The boys, they slept in this part of it, and the girls in the other. And my mother made slats of wood and put up over the screen so that the snow wouldn't blow in so much on us. And our poor little puppy dog, Trixie, froze to death underneath my sister's feet. The poor little sucker was like that in the morning.
A popsicle in the morning.
Yeah, he was. I was blessed, I say. And I say blessed because it was you might say this is a real odd situation. A young fellow that I was associated with at Ogden High School, and he asked, would you have a blind date if I lined you up with one? I said, well, I guess so. And his girlfriend talked to my sweetheart, and at 7 o'clock that evening, that was the 8th of December, 1941, the day after Pearl Harbor. I met her. I think I saw what I liked very much, and I didn't change my mind ever.
How long did you date for?
Well, but very steadily until the next October, and then I enlisted in the Air Corps.
Did you get married before you went in?
No. But I wrote to her. No, she was only 16 years old, and everybody said you're robbing the cradle.
Did you get drafted? Did you go to recruiting centers?
Well, I was working aircraft welding, and we were working out at Hillfield night. Of course, we were 18 years old. When do you think we're going to get drafted? Oh, and that was the talk. So decided to go and talk to a recruiter, and you come and you can take the school that you want to go to, which was sort of true. I decided to go, and I went down and caught the Bamberger, the old electric trolley that went to Salt Lake. We went to Salt Lake at 7 o'clock in the morning, and gosh, it seems like we were half nude half the day. Getting checked over. They check you over like you was, going to be some of their property anyway, so they want to make sure they're getting a good deal. Anyway, this sergeant was so kind to us. He was nice as can be, and he said, please line up in a nice line here, fellows. Now, straighten it out. Now, put your arm to the square. Yes. And report after me. And I did, and we all did. When our arms came down, there was a different guy up front of us, and it wasn't the same guy as when we started out. You BAS, you're in the Army now, and don't you forget it. you're Sam's man now. And I think my eyes bulged out, and I thought, what have I done? But it was done.
They pulled the bait and switch on you.
Oh, he was so kind. And sure enough, I was leaving for Buckley Field, Colorado to go to armament school. You had to be able to take the 50 caliber, 30 caliber, 37 millimeter cannon and the 20 millimeter cannons apart, blindfolded, and put them back together in nothing flat. And that was a 10-week course there. Just a sideline along that idea, I did go to Denver and purchased engagement ring. Nobody but Lois and I knew that. In that time in that course, they brought a piece of paper through and asked if anybody was interested in cadets. Well, whoever gave it a thought? I was shipped out to go to Ryan Field, Tucson, Arizona. That's where we had our primary flying. Got there the 1st of January, 1944. That was a 10-week course there in flying PT-22, a little open cockpit plane. When I got my wings, I got to come home for 15 days and went back to, it's down where the aliens landed, Roswell. Anybody would know that because that's where my sweetheart sent a note to me and said, send me some money and we'll come and we'll get married. And I'd finished up my training there, and she came and we got married. And she came looking for an alien, found one and kept him.
Now, Grandpa, I love this, but I want everybody to know kind of how long you've been in the military. What day did you start?
That was the 30th of October, 1942.
When did Lois, Grandma, come down to New Mexico to meet you?
That was the 19th of October we got married.
In what year?
1944.
So you've been in the military now just shy of 2 years and have not had to see any action yet because you've just been making your way through trainings.
Yeah.
It's a great blessing. So we got married, right?
We got married. I was assigned my group to go up to Rapid City for phase training. That's where you go up and fly formation and have some flying time with your crew.
Like, did you train with the same crew that you stayed
Oh,
with?
yes. Yeah, that was my crew.
So this was your crew. What was their name and their position in the plane?
Oh, come on, Ryan.
It's important, Grandpa. What was your name?
It used to be Ray.
And what was your position in the plane?
I was the pilot, first
Okay.
pilot.
Do you remember your co-pilot?
That was Tom Hauer. Navigator was, I can't even think of Max McKenna's name. Anyway, Wolf was my radio operator. I had Peck was my engineer. Well, my tail gunner was from Austin, Nevada, Bob Smitline. And the other was, I can't think of all the names right now. I've got them written down somewhere. We left there, we were there in Lincoln, Nebraska, waiting for overseas separation, and you had to go out to the base each day and stay there and see if you're shipping out that day. And you could not contact anybody in town, telephone, nothing, no note or anything. So if you came back to your billet at night, you were shipped out. If you didn't, you was gone. And the 16th of March, I went out there and we loaded in the train and off we went back to New Jersey, where we got the ship for the convoys to go over to England.
Now, Grandma didn't know. You left that morning?
Nope.
She had no clue whether you were coming back or not?
Nope. I left a pregnant wife in Lincoln, Nebraska when I shipped out. So she knew on the 16th of March that I was gone. And she had the problem of finding some way to get home to Ogden, and it took her 2 weeks to get some trip, be able to get home on the railroad. There's 14 days across to go from there over to Le Havre, and then the next day we went over to Southampton. Our group, 95th Bomb Group at Horham, 334th Bomb Squadron. That's who I was assigned to. This morning, it's the first day of May, 1945. So we went and got breakfast, went to the ready room, and sitting there, and from what you've seen in movies, they have a big curtain and they pulled it back, and it said, "Your mission for today will be to fly to The Hague, Netherlands, to drop food for the starving Dutch. Your plane is already equipped. The food is all in it. The pre-flight has all been taken care of. It's ready to go." And this was new to everybody. We knew nothing about this, nothing about what was happening. And we weren't to fly at an altitude, but fly no armament, but fly at a low altitude. And we flew in and dropped the food for the Hague soccer field north of the town. And we had to fly. This was in formation, so it wasn't really the best of things, because the food was scattered around, as you can imagine, because I was over here and the other planes some more over here in the formation. Well, their food is going to be over here and it's going to be scattered around. You can imagine this. So this was the first day of it. The next day we were called and we were going to fly to Amsterdam, and we flew in formation again, and this was to drop the food on the airfield south of Amsterdam. We did so, and they decided that this was not the best of situations, so they decided we're going to fly individually, go one by one over and drop food, and this is what happened for the next 4 days. The last 4 days was to Utrecht, Holland, and flew in there and dropped the food. Curious, I wanted to see what the ground looked like. So I dropped down, after dropping the food, I dropped down 6-8 feet above ground, went up over a dike, back down, and it was quite an exhilarating thing, flying along like that. In fact, the one day my co-pilot said, "Let me have it, Ray. I want you to check the altimeter." And we were flying along at 150 miles an hour at 25 feet below sea level. But that was an interesting thing, and I saw sun of Holland from right next to nothing, and it was water up to the eaves on the houses. This was this area where the Germans had broken the dikes and flooded the areas to keep the Allies from further their intrusion into the area there. So that was quite a thing to see, but then we came up to a village. It wasn't that big, but what was so astounding is every man, woman, and child was out in the streets. They had a Dutch flag, and they weren't allowed to have a Dutch flag, but they had their Dutch flag. And it was mighty touching to see all of those Dutch people that were so appreciative of what was being taking place for them.
Tell me how you feel about it 80 years later.
I have been thankful for this all my life, because I know we were servants of our Lord and Savior, helping those starving Dutch. They were at peril, and I've taught a lot of they were young kids at the time, Dutch people that were over here, and they were told us about what they saw and what the food meant to them, and it meant life-saving things to them. So it was a wonderful, wonderful thing, and it's been absolutely a blessing to my life to know that I was able to help the Dutch people, save lives, not take any lives, and that's just how I've always felt. And I've always been very humbled, but to know that we were a chosen group and we were blessed. And I've always felt that very much.
And you flew your last mission on what day?
That was the 7th of May, 1945.
And when did the war end?
8th of May, 1945. The war was still going when we were dropping the food. It needs to be pointed out that one member of my squadron was flying 48640, which was the number of the plane that I dropped food for in Amsterdam. But they were flying on the 7th of May, and they were just about exiting Netherlands, and a German shot one of the engines up, and they had a fire, and they were too low, and they plunged into the North Sea. They had 13 people aboard. 2 of the 13 survived, and then one of that person died, so only one of them survived.
So you flew your last mission on the 7th. What happened after that?
A couple of days later, they had us fly, they called it the Cook's Tour, and they let members of the ground crew go on board, and we flew over, and I flew over as far as Frankfurt, Germany, low level, all the way over to let them see what it looked like in Germany. And we flew over as far as there, but I'll never forget coming upon Cologne. And Cologne was, I would say it was about the same size as San Francisco. You know, it's a major town over there on the Rhine. And the only building that was freestanding was the church right on the Rhine River, the great big cathedral. But all the way through the town, the rubble down, and they had bulldozed road here and there across until they came to bridges to go across. And then we flew back across and flew over to Paris, and I flew around the Eiffel Tower about halfway up, so everybody could see that, and came back over the white cliffs of Dover and back to the base.
What was one experience you had flying that stands out more than any?
Maybe it's being nosy. That's what my sweetheart always said. I was too nosy. But I like to get up there and fly into areas where there was no road and see what's there. And it was such an exhilarating thing to get up and just see what's up there and all in your whole area and just feel exhilaration from it. Oh, and then to think of the B-36s flying over here, when they were flying over, I would tell the kids, come out and see, come out and see. Look up at that darn thing. Oh my gosh, look at that big son of a gun. And then here, about 4 years ago, I'm reading an account, and it says the 334th Bomb Squadron of the 95th Bomb Group was reconstituted, and they flew the B-36. And I thought, if I'd have stayed, I'd have flown that darn thing. Oh my gosh.
I want to know what the flag means to you.
Well, the flag is very important to me. I love my country, love my flag, and I'm so thankful to have been able to serve as I did. I was at Cambridge Manly Cemetery in 2017, and I helped recover the flag as we were folding it up. This one lady that was in the group went over to the superintendent of the facility there and said, "Why don't you give that flag to Ray?" So I'm the proud owner of this flag that flew with dignity over all those graves there at Manly.